Richard Willett, welcome back to the channel. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me back and all the help you've been giving me the last, well, since we've known each other with publishing and knowing what we're doing in this strange publishing world, especially in the conspiratory true crime thing, what I'm trying to go into. So I'm good, thank you. Tired, kids running around, but we're okay. We're all right. We're doing this stuff and we're still here.
So your book, any minute now, is about to be published.
It is with your help, because without your help, I would be lost. So I've been, for anyone who's listening at home, I've been pestering Guy on how to get this thing out. I'm I'm very technically savvy, but when it comes to things like this, I just have a brain fart with it. This is such new territory for me. So my book is called Am Immortal. It's the death cult's quest for immortality. So there is this global death cult, which I want to kind of talk about in this show today to try and clear up what I mean by that and what I kind of think is really going on. And they have this kind of quest to escape their maker. They are a satanic death cult, but they're terrified of Satan, Saturn, Kronos, death, old father time, the same thing, Yaldabaoth, whatever you want to call it, this daddy figure, and having to kind of have their judgment day. So, whilst they're a death cult, they're also trying to stay alive forever. They want death for you and I, and they want to be here forever, physically here forever in these shells. So, I go through the whole kind of esoteric belief system, ideology behind that, and map that out, their crazy ideas. And I kind of give it, I try and put it in layman's terms, in terms of like a, uh, I'm not a professor. I'm not going to sit there and write a thesis on this. This is written like I speak to you, which may be, may be an issue. It's my first book, so I'm really looking forward to getting into this. And you've been a massive help, so thank you and everything.
Oh, you're welcome. It's difficult, isn't it? Because I had no alternative other than to use Amazon.
Mm.
Because no one was going to publish my book in this country. They did in Japan and now Poland and Germany, but in
Oh
this
wow.
country, no one would touch it. I sent bits to several big publishing companies and a few smaller ones, and they just couldn't go there. They refused to have anything to do with it. So I had no option other than to use Amazon, but I didn't know anybody else that had published a book through Amazon. So it was trial and error. It was really, really hard work. But once you've done it, it's like everything else, isn't it? It
Mm.
becomes a
Yeah.
lot easier. And now having, published three books, I kind of got the hang of it a little bit more, and then I'm able to help, you without leading you up the garden path.
Well, you've been a massive help with it, because it is kind of, and also we do the same sort of work, so we can talk about the same
Mm,
kind of subjects. And I like the fact we talk about different subjects within the same arena, but we have the same sort of sense of humor about it. We've got the same work ethic in terms of just let's get it done. I've gone again. My video went again. Sorry about that.
right.
Um, and it's great to sort of be able to work with someone also who's the same. Let's just get it done and get it out. Here we go. I'm going in and out here, look, in and out of consciousness. Oh, come on. Jesus Christ. There you go.
There, are you
This
back? Oh, no, you're gone again.
right, gone again. I'm back again. All the tech, and it just keeps popping on and off. Hopefully that'll stick with it now. No. Oh, right. Wait a minute. What is going on here? There you go. So it's one of those situations where you kind of I've built up for years to release a book. I think it's a big step for me in terms of my own confidence in what I'm doing. You enter this field as a conspiracy theorist, or I'm a journalist. I have a film and TV degree, an honours degree in film and TV production. So I've done a bit of journalism there. I've done documentary filmmaking. I come from a more of a mainstream feel. I had that opportunity to go to the BBC. I did work there for a little while in terms of some lower level stuff in Norfolk, and the radio side was open to me as well. I was working in radio for a little while and trying to find my foot in there, but everything felt like this is nonsense. We're not telling anywhere near the truth. And there was a weird cult like atmosphere to being there. And there was this kind of, it's the BBC, you're in the belly of the beast, and you look at you, got your badge, and you get to go up through that sacred door through the stairs. And the people were nice enough, but you kind of knew that everybody knew they were talking. Like, there was no real journalism at that point there. I'm sure there was in the past, But by the time I got there, so that's 15, yeah, probably would be about 15 years ago now, 12, 13 years ago. It was Reuters repeats, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and I was like, I can't do this. It's nonsense.
Hmm.
And I couldn't think that I would have done and carried on with doing that without being a pisshead, like most of them. They all had like their afternoon drinks and meetings. Like you're drinking at like 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I was like, this is not going to be a good place for me. So what else do you have? And this is say 13, 14 years ago. There wasn't an alternative media to the fact there is now.
Yeah.
Even then, and it's not that long ago.
No,
So to
it's
be
not.
able to release these books now is a blessing. It really, really is. So yeah, it'd be Amazon, and people are going to turn their nose up at that Aragon again and say, "Oh, why are you using Amazon?" If you look at the work I'm doing and the way I talk about things, I'm not an ardent. They are the globalist bad people. I think when I write this book and when you look at what I write, I think it's more. I've come to understand it more of a logical consequence of a lot of rich people who are allowed to do a lot of things over a long period of time, thousands of years in these bloodline families, just keeping power, just trying to control power. And then you mix in these weird ideologies, these end times ideologies, biblical stuff, and get told you're special. And everything around you tells you you're special because you're being given everything and everyone's telling you you're great all the time. It's a cult. So the cult, into my view, is a logical outcome of people being human beings, believing some very weird things over a long period of time. Um, I'm going to just try and fix this because that's annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. No problem. Yeah, it's just come up saying no signal.
Yeah,
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because as much as we don't want to support these huge organizations and we don't want to see, Jeff with Katy Perry trying to fly into space and
yeah,
be funding that and his huge yacht, that they have to disassemble a bridge for to get it out. Um, none of us want to be supporting that, but at the same time, there is an element of hypocrisy when we are all saying that we hate these large companies, especially the ones that support the World Economic Forum, for example,
yep.
and yet we are on our phone commenting or tweeting or messaging about this system that we don't like without taking a closer look at the manufacturer of the phone that we're using or
It
the
is.
the
Yep.
the manufacturer of the car we get in or the brand of the TV or our shoes or trainers. Where do you draw the line? And I think if you're using Amazon because there is no alternative, that's very different to proactively supporting them because ultimately, as I say to people quite often, I'm not supporting Amazon. Amazon pay me. Every month,
Mm.
Amazon pay me. I'm not paying them. I didn't pay them to publish my book. They pay me royalties because they published it. So, but I also accept the fact that, I have an iPhone. We have a
I've got a
Ford
Mac. I'm using
car,
a Mac.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yeah.
use Mac. So, where do you draw the line? And I think that you need to be able to dip in and out of the system
Yep.
to suit your needs, but you can't actually remove yourself from it if you want to do what you and I are doing.
No, and I have the idea, the kind of concept of look, if you want to tell someone the water's poisoned, you need to go to the river to tell them. They're at the river, they're at Amazon,
Mm,
they're on X, they're on this stuff. Now, again, it's not that the water is so much poisoned; it's if you drink too much of this water and get too indulged in it, you'll drown.
mm,
It isn't. This is this binary understanding and this childlike understanding of all in or all out. The world doesn't work like that when you become an adult. You really doesn't. I'm not preaching to anyone or talking down to anyone, but it's something I've kind of gone from this extreme of let's go live in the woods to you can't function that way, and or you certainly can't do anything about what you believe to be rights and wrongs in the world. They want you to stretch between the polarities when you look at the alchemy of things. So I go into that in the book. So they understand how to use the nature of reality. I'm not talking about in a supernatural way. I'm talking about in a psychological, very materialistic, how this place works and how our minds work. They understand that. So they work within that frame. That's the beast system to me. We are all born into that system. Whatever that becomes is down to the individual input that you have it on it, and you can only really echo out your own impact within that system. You're in the system. You can't escape the system, and why would you want to? I'm not agnostic and believe that this is a trap. I don't go into that's not something that really works for me mentally and psychologically. I think it damages me personally. Again, I only talk for myself, but I want to work within the system. I want to go in the system and change it from within because that's the system. By me going out and living in the woods, what am I really changing? And my kids aren't going to benefit from that. Why should I, have a miserable life living in the woods, suffering to prove a point? It's more egocentric. That would be more about, look at me, I'm so pious. It becomes an illness when it's too extreme to me. So using social media, using that, I have got nothing wrong with the technology. The world moves on. I'm not a Luddite. I haven't got a problem with that. I've got a problem when you start asking the technology to think for you, to do things you should be
Yes.
doing for yourself. When you put the horse before the cart, then I got a problem with it. So all I want to do is go in and say, look, just watch how we use these things. These are fine. It's not a problem with these. This is the world moves on. We use credit cards. I don't want to use a universal basic income that says if I say something wrong, I can't get food that week. But it doesn't mean I don't want to use a credit card, but also doesn't mean I don't want cash. This all or nothing thinking is what they want you to do. That's why they use the black and white, as you know, the checkerboard in Freemasonry, because they want you in this binary thinking because you're powerless at each end of the extreme. They know that. So I go into that in the book. It's learning how to think like these people fascinates me. I don't believe in the biblical ideologies. They certainly do, some of them. Some of them don't and just use it for power and prestige and to hold on to those power and prestige for 1,000 years. They don't have a clue. The person at the top of the, not the clue, sorry, they don't believe in it at all. But I don't know unless I talk to the individual. So the person at
Yeah.
the top of the pyramid might not believe any of this, but goes, well, that's a bloody good way to control people. I
Mm.
don't know. We don't know. None of us know because we're not there and we're not them in their mind. But we do know the outcome of that is that the world is not a fair place. The people that like us who work all the time don't get what we deserve. The people that do very little do because it's an inverted satanic system. So if you want to change that system, you've got to go into the system to change it and play the game of it. But be aware that what you're playing, it is a game. So when they talk about things like I don't believe that they go into these rituals and actually talk to demonic entities and stuff like that. I don't believe that personally. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I've never seen any evidence of that. So I'm a conspiracy theorist, but the conspiracy I'm looking into is that these people will sell you the idea of that that's what they're doing. And in the end of the day, does it matter if it's true or not? Because you're going to react the same way as whether they are or not. So the outcome is the magic. So I talk about this in a video that I'm putting out on my Patreon soon. I'm starting up my own Patreon, and I've literally going to be putting some videos behind the wall over the next few weeks, but they're free at the moment. So if you go over there, Patreon/Richard Willett, you'll find me. And I talk about magic, practical magic. The practical magic is that what they do is they make this world happen in the way they want to, but it's a very practical way of doing it. They do it through cause and effect. They understand cause and effect on all sorts of levels. That's alchemy. But it's a very physical, logical thing. But they can wrap it up in ideologies and stories and mythologies that some will buy into and believe. Absolutely. The buying into and believing is what drives them. But does it make it any more real? No. Or does it? Because the end result is the same. And that's what I'm
Mm.
looking at. The end result is the same whether you believe it or not. And that's the beast system. So I'm trying to kind of untangle this mess of conspiracy land that whether you believe it or not really doesn't matter because some people with a lot of money and a lot of power and prestige who have over time used these techniques now believe it, some of them, and look at the state we're in.
Yeah.
So does that make
I
sense? So it's a far more
totally.
complex view and system at it, then this is a conspiracy and they're all talking to off-world entities and you're downloading them and all that stuff. Might be true. I've never seen any evidence to it. I'm not the person to come to tell you that that's true or not. I don't know. But what I can tell you is that some of them believe it, and even the ones that don't believe it still use it and weaponize it against you.
I think that that's what religion is all about ultimately,
Mm,
because from the research that I've done over the years, everything seems to stem from earlier Sumerian, in many cases, text. And like you said, it doesn't matter whether they ultimately believe in a god or in the devil or in demonic entities, and whether or not they worship anything is kind of a side issue. They've got us thinking that they do, and they've probably got people underneath them
mm.
in their sort
And it
of
doesn't matter,
hierarchical.
Guy, that whether it's true or not. Not really, because the outcome is the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
The
And I do,
effect is the same. That's what I'm trying to get across. Doesn't really matter. We're arguing over whether these things are really demonic entities, whether we really live in a matrix. Clearly, there's a design to this place. I can guarantee that. But we're arguing over the minute details of. Doesn't really matter, does it? The outcomes are the same. If we're going to do anything about it, we need to come to terms with that or recognize that is that whether it's true or not, arguing about the truth or the fantasy of it all isn't getting us anywhere. Let's do something about the practical outcomes of these lunatics bombing the crap out of 20,000 children in Palestine. How did that
mm,
happen? How did we get to this point where that is allowed to happen and the guy can still live in a mansion and put up a ballroom and build an arch? How did we get to that? This is
yeah,
that's practically that's practical magic. That's undoing the magic trick because it's not magic. Hollywood has told you that magic's out there and it's something special and it's something amazing and you can't get hold of it unless you go through this course. You do this reading. You read the Kabbalah. You read the Lurianic Kabbalah. You read this esoteric teaching. The magic is getting you to believe that any of this shit is leading anywhere.
mm, mm,
It's not. It's triggering something, in my opinion. Again, this is my opinion. Something, as who's been around this stuff for a very long time, is triggering something in you. That's the magic, getting you to do something, believing it's leading you somewhere. And when you look around and you're leaving a trail of destruction behind you, the only choices you have is to go, oh shit, I've become an asshole, or doubling down on this because now I feel terrible. And that's the magic of it.
yeah, I agree. And I think that from the very start, religion has been used to not only control people, because you think one of the first things we're presented with are the Ten Commandments that just happen to no longer exist. Within moments of being presented with them, they're broken, and he leaves them there, and this kind of story that we've heard repeated throughout lots of different scenarios. So we've got these rules that we live by that they don't follow, and the
Yes.
first thing that we're asked to do when we walk into a religious building, usually, is to hand over money in one way or another, um, which is really strange. I'm sort of referring to George Carlin here, the American
Mm.
comedian, um, when he said that you've got this incredibly powerful being that created us, created the world, created everything, that can control the outcome of any situation, that has a divine plan for us all. Yet, of all the things he's capable of doing, he just doesn't seem to be able to work with money very well. The church
He
is
just keeps losing it.
constantly needing money. Every time you go in, we need money, we need money, give us money. And you think, well, hold on a moment. If everything is ultimately God's will, then the church staying open or closing would fall under that too, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be God's will? And I
Yep.
think it's fantastic. They've got people a set of rules to follow. They've brainwashed them. They don't follow the rules clearly themselves, and they demonstrate that every day. They take money from people that in many cases can't afford to hand it over, and in return for that, you're preached to by a preacher that's reading choice, selective um, snippets of a book that they have changed and left an incredible amount of information out of, but you're not supposed to read any of that or take it seriously, but you are the bits that they left in. Um, and so, I often think that when you go to church, a lot of people that go to church and or regurgitate online, um, phrases and verses from the Bible, a lot of them haven't actually read their own owner's handbook. They're just repeating what somebody else has said somewhere else, or copying and pasting something from the internet that suits the particular post that they're commenting on. And I
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
what is this all about? How did we get to a point where people still believe that that there's a heaven and hell, and if we, as providing that we're good, that we are going to ascend to heaven, and we're going to get to the gates, and
Yeah.
why do we now still believe that? I mean, it's been one of I suppose, the largest example of indoctrination and brainwashing, almost a mind control, that's ever taken place.
Well, that's it. You're right. That's the beast system. That's what it is. It's there already. The beast system has created itself through power of suggestion. The result of where we are today is, to me, the result, and I'll do a video about this. I think it's on my YouTube, might be on iconic.com, about it's the result of delusional spiraling. Now, I think it's MIT came out with a study on this about how AI is causing delusional spiraling within people who are using it. Chat GPT, um, confirmation bias, basically. They want you to stay on the screen and use it. So it wants you to feel like you're right all the time. So basically, it's not challenging you. And not that I would agree with ChatGPT has its own issues, because it's programmed by people that don't know what they're talking about either, in terms of they've got their own agenda, they've got their own nonsense. So it's all a nonsense. Bollocks begets bollocks, but it is this delusional spiraling over years and years and years, thousands of years, down into this doubling down on stuff is not true. After a certain amount of time, it becomes, everybody knows that. I think it's David Icke says a lot. So it's delusional spiraling. The best concept of that is the Emperor's New Clothes. So when he's got his
Hmm.
tallywhacker out and no one's saying it. Well, we need to start saying it. This is mental. You can't have George Bush. You can't have Donald Trump. You can't have Netanyahu. These people who are clearly on the spectrum of a personality disorder, a malignant one, which means evil. Basically, they'll take it out on you and hurt people because of it. You can't have them in positions of power. So we've got to the point where we've delusionally spiraled so way that the cult now is satanic and upside down, whether it was purposely set that way. And I would argue that it wasn't purposely set that way. This is a outcome of thousands of years of spiraling down. And I understand it, because we're born into a world where we don't know where we came from, we don't know where we're going. It's a crazy making situation to be put in. That is, again, a logical outcome. So um, what I want to kind of do is bring this logic to understanding, yes, conspiracies happen. The conspiracy world is very real. Conspiracies happen all the time. Obviously, we've got secret services, police. Conspiracies happen all the time. Sometimes the people believe in what they're doing. Sometimes they're doing it because they just want money and power. Some people think they're doing the right thing. But the conspiracy absolutely happens. So I'm trying to connect the true crime world to the conspiracy occult world, because the true crime world are dismissing all this information in the occult that will help you solve these true crimes. Why this world is in a mess. Not always, obviously, but a lot of times, especially when you bring religion into it, the ideology, the symbology, and the occult understanding or belief about the world is what's driving the crime in the first place. There's a conspiracy to commit that crime. So what is the ideology of these people getting together to commit that crime? What has been put in their head? The
Yeah.
narrative, the story. If we're going to really undo this, we need to be adults about it and look at it as people. Donald Trump isn't a bloody superhuman, no super villain. He's not Lex Luthor. None of this stuff again. He's a maniac who's been given everything he wants all his life and still is today, preaching to maniacs because they've become ill, because he is reaffirming confirmation bias, delusional spiraling, what they want the world to be, because they've spent their life pushing the world in that way. So the religious stuff, especially, and the transhumanist stuff, the technate stuff. It's all about bringing about this end times plan. So in my book, I'm Immortal, I talk about that. I talk about in those terms. I lay it all out and go, look, these people are mad. That's the structure we've got from how did they get mad? How do we get to the point where we're mad enough to allow them to control us? And give away, when you talked about the churches there, Kai, you talked about giving money. Well, what is money? It's agency. It's your ability to control your own little world the way you want to and function in the world you want to. And you've obviously got to do a dance with people around you and be fair, you know, try and be as conductive and conducive to society as possible if you're a decent person, not a psychopath. Um, but you've given away your agency. Tell me what I am. And what does that sound like? It's Chat GPT, Grok.
Yes.
It's the
Yes.
same thing over and over again. When you get out of childhood and you get in your late teens, your mid teens, your late teens, your 20s, you should no longer be asking mummy and daddy what the world is about. Because you'll probably
Mm.
find out they ain't got a fucking clue either. Because neither
No.
did their mum and dad.
Mm.
This is what we haven't. Again, this is just me saying it. I'm 45 years old. You can dismiss all this. This is what I've learned. And if you're interested in it and it sparks some ideas in you, then you'll get a lot out of the book in the sense of these aren't superhuman villains. Villains have superhuman power. They're not. They have mad ideas in a mad world that props up that mad world because we've delusionally spiraled into it. So in this upside down world, they are the most powerful now and they should not be. So this is a logical thing. So I'm giving hope, going, actually, I can, that makes sense. Take all the superhuman crap out of it if you want to. That
It,
makes sense why these people is. And if it makes sense, I can see it for what it is. I become the watcher and I can look at that mad person as a mad person and no longer believe anything they're saying. And therefore, it has no effect over me. Therefore, I take my agency back and it's empowering. Does that make sense?
yes. That's ultimately what we're looking for, isn't it?
Mm.
Empowerment. And we have given away authority to anybody that wears a uniform, and we put people into office. We give them positions of power, and it's our power that we're handing over to people that are supposed to serve us but don't. And with regard to Trump, there are troops out there that have started complaining about the fact that high-ranking military officials have been almost preaching to them in large groups, saying
Yes.
that he is fulfilling prophecy and referring to him with a comparison of him being, the new Messiah. And these soldiers have been saying enough. We're not going to hear this anymore. And there are also different religions involved, where certain people have said, well, you know, I didn't join the forces to fight for my country to be spoken to about Christianity when I'm a Muslim or I'm a different, of a different
Yeah.
faith. And it's got to the point now, and I keep seeing this on Facebook at the moment, where people are actually sharing posts that are referring to him as some sort of messiah. And whenever I talk about Trump in a negative way, I'll have people that react saying, "I don't know why you've got it in for Trump, and I hope you're wrong about what you've said." I just think, well, have you not looked at where his money comes from? Have you not looked at who bails him out?
Yep.
He is like so many others. He is the result of being born into an incredibly wealthy family where inbreeding has been going on for some time. You end up with these weird characters that are absolutely narcissistic and psychopathic in many respects. And he destroyed his family's business.
Yep.
Rothschilds bailed him out. He destroyed it again. They bailed him out. Don't people look at who bails him out and then wonder why they're bailing him out? Is it because they
Mm.
want some special interest terms with him? They're going to make a lot of money from the repayment? Or is it actually that they are buying him? Now, that's normally what's going on
I
behind all of
think
this.
it's a really important question. And I think it comes back to that kind of journey and crossroads I said earlier. It's cognitive dissonance on the
Mm,
level where we're not in business with him, we're not going to his parties and doing all this stuff, not that we'd want to. But we're not benefiting that way. So these followers, these MAGA followers, who were led into the Capitol, Capitoline Hill, by the way, on January the 6th, which is topsy turvy day when you really look at it, which means you've been set up. It's the topsy turvy inversion of the Christian. There's a Christian day that happens on that day as well, and I forgot what the name of it was, but he was doing the topsy turvy. He was sending them to their own demise knowingly because he's a Satanist. And that's how we know. That's why it's important to put this context in what they believe. Remember, he's nuts. It's a doubling down. And what happens is that there's a confirmation bias, but there's a cognitive dissonance there. They've spent, it takes so much strength. Like you were in the Masons for a little while, like and I went to AA meetings. Like I never really had a massive drink problem. I binge drank, but I had people in my ear telling me. And I look back and think, bloody Rockefeller started AA. As friends of what was it? The Friends of Rockefellers it was called originally. And I'm thinking this is ridiculous when I'm sitting in there and people are like meetings and I'm thinking this is retarded, quite frankly. It is, it's backwards. That's what the word means, by the way. It means
yes, French for retard,
yeah, it means it does it hasn't grown at the rate that it should have done. Or yeah, usually does. So it's backwards. And it's what it was happening. It was a cult. It clearly was a cult, whether it was supposed to be a cult or not. It was that cult mentality. There's 100%. Of course it was. And I've been in there long enough to know that it was what it was. But my point is that it was hard to come out. Hard to go, this is bollocks. Oh, if you leave, you'll start drinking again. I don't know, bollocks. I know loads of people that never went there at all. And then, like, if you come out of the Masons, if you come out of the Jesuits, you come out of the any cult, you come out of the what was I say, Nexium, you come out of bloody, they're all the same. You're going to die. You're doing the wrong thing. You're blaspheming. So if you come out of a religion, but if you come out of MAGA, you've got to look at yourself and go, what the hell was I doing? It takes a certain amount of self-awareness, but also a kind of humility to go, that was fucking bad, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Do it with humor. You were brainwashed into something. We're all capable of getting brainwashed into stuff. Trust me, I've been around the conspiracy land long enough. I probably wouldn't have got into conspiracy land if I wouldn't have been susceptible to brainwashing. My trauma led me down these paths. I've been self-aware enough, and I've had the sense of humor, I think, was really helped with me to go down these rabbit holes, go and look at these things and go, that's really interesting, be mental. And as soon as I started to just watch it and enjoy it just for the journey, but not believe any of it, then I started to go, this is just really interesting. Yeah. Like I can look at the Gnostic stuff and not go, oh shit, I'm trapped in the Matrix. I'll go, that's interesting. I don't feel trapped. Does it really serve me to feel like I'm trapped? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know till I die. But I also don't want to live the next 45 years of my life miserable thinking I'm trapped. It doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve me. It might serve someone else, but it doesn't serve me. And I don't think it's a healthy way of thinking. So you can look at this information. So one of the big things I want to do on my Patreon is work with people that look at all of this stuff, but teach them, or not teach them, go with them on a journey to go, we can look at all these amazing, weird stuff, and the world is weird and upside down, and there is a death cult controlling the world. But it's logically controlling the world because we've allowed it, and it doesn't have to be that way. We can start undoing it when we look at it as grown adults and the logic of it. They're not superhuman. They're not superpowers. They're not talking to these mad devils, although they may seem to in their own mind because they're psychologically done. Some of them might be even schizophrenic, psychotic. So they probably believe, some of them do, that they're doing things. And whether they are or not, I'm not going to let it affect my life. I'm certainly not going to let someone else's schizophrenia ruin my children's future. So I want to kind of bring more logical, kind of take back to the true crime world, connect the worlds and go, there's a logic to this madness. And once we can bring it down to that very human level and go, this is mental, we can laugh at it, we can look at this stuff, we can look at them as almost slightly ill people, these ideologies are ill, we can maybe undo some of the damage and not allow 20,000 children to be killed in the future. That's what I'm trying to do with this work. I'm not trying to reiterate that these things are real. I'm trying to look at them and go, I don't believe any of this stuff, but these people certainly do. How did we get to this point? They understand cause and effect. There is a nature to this reality. There is a so above as below. There is a holographic nature to the reality in that sense. the science is there. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a filmmaker. But I understand psychology and storytelling. I understand the conspiracy world. I understand. I was a youth worker for 7 years. I was working with children with special needs and autism and all, and on the autistic spectrum. I understand seeing the world in a different way, and I understand how powerful narratives can be. But you can read a story and not believe in it, but still enjoy it.
Yes, I
And I
totally
really,
agree.
really don't like it when you meet people and they're so bloody miserable and desperate because conspiracy world has taken them to that ledge of going, this is shit, everything's shit, the world's against us, there's this death cult. Yes,
Mm,
there is, but you're all right. Look at your family. You're doing all right.
yeah. I always say the same thing to people. I get hit with that all the time. And I used to have this one particular person that any post I put up on Facebook would say, it's great you sharing all this information, but what do we do with it? And I used to say the same thing every single time they would put this particular comment. And I would always say, you share it. Because what we're trying to do is help people see through the
Mm,
lies. And I don't put information up there like with yourself and other people like us, like Gareth and David and Jamie and Richard Voves and lots of other people. This information isn't put out there for fun. We've got better things to do with our time. I share information because I found something or I'm holding on to something that chips away at this
mm.
pedestal that we've put these people on in many cases. And I think it's important to realize that at the end of the day, like you quite rightly said, these aren't superheroes.
No,
These
they're not.
aren't, these aren't gods or deities. These are regular people, just like you and I. They put one sock on at a time, one shoe on at a time, but they've reached a position because we've helped get them there where they believe that they are above us, that they are almost like Trump's now doing, they're representing Jesus or God on earth. And we're allowing them to get away with that. What we've now got to do is say, hold on a moment.
Mm,
If you really are following the Bible and and you believe everything that's written in there, I thought we were all created equally in the image of the gods, that we were created as equal, and that means that no one person is above us. So when we elevate them to these positions and they become icons, which I believe is actually a play on words for archon, when we
right, yeah.
do that and we celebrate these people, then we're actually fueling their narcissism even further, and that's where we've got to now. So I think what we now need to do is understand with work that you're putting out there, for example, we need to understand more about who these people really are, what their true purposes and their ideology, and detach ourselves from it and stop supporting it. Because if we don't, if we no longer repeat what they say, if we no longer turn the TV on when they're giving another speech or a presentation on some lunacy idea that they're putting out there, if we disengage from that, then they lose the impact, don't they? And they'll see that their ratings have dropped. If Trump or Charles Windsor are talking today somewhere, if we're more aware of what they're really about and their true beliefs and how they really perceive us, we'll disengage and they'll see that the attendance has dropped. No one likes you anymore.
Yeah.
That's where we need to get to. No one likes you anymore.
Yeah. And it's a tricky one because by pointing out what they're doing, some people in this world don't care if it's like a Trump, I would say. Doesn't mind if you love him or hate him, just acknowledge he's there. Like a vampire. He needs to be seen. That's true
Yes.
psychopathy, I think. Um, he doesn't really care if you love or hate him. He just doesn't want you to ignore him. Now, the difficult
That's
thing
it.
there
Sorry,
is,
Richard. I
yeah,
should have said we ignore them and make them understand that we're no longer interested in anything they've got to say.
the difficult thing in that is because we understand the symbology to that level, have to point that stuff out, but therefore you are kind of fanning the flames of it. But like any fire, someone like a Trump will burn themselves out eventually. There's only so much gas in the tank with someone like that. So they're a dime a dozen. They'll come and they'll go. So this again is the beast system that we're stuck in, because we are a cog in the beast system already, and everybody's looking out there, and that's part of the trick is to look over there. The beast system's coming. The beast system is the organic nature of what we've become. We're growing it. It's organic, and within the organic, there is this kind of like, what do you call it, a synthesis between the organic and the inorganic. The inorganic is the effect that we have on it. The organic is the outcome of the inorganic effects. So it becomes something, it becomes a beast. Now, what does that beast become? That could be the wolf. It could be the black wolf or the white wolf. Still a wolf. So it really depends on what we bring to it. And you can only do your own part. So my kind of part is you go, okay, I'm going to pick this little task from my life. I'm going to find it funny. I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not letting the whole, you're not supposed to try and save the world. And my wife said something, I'll repeat in a minute, that really makes sense and reframes it, brings it all down. But what are you going to do? What is your little contribution? My contribution is to point out the madness of these people, laugh at them, take the seriousness out of who they are, so we don't prop them up as scary, all-powerful individuals, which they're not. They're Wizard of Oz. They're behind the curtain, flapping around morons. And I'm not. Don't live your life in fear of this crap, because that's just playing into it, and it's a waste of your own time. You've got an opportunity here to have a nice life. If you're like me and live in the West, you've got a roof over your head, 2 children, you're doing all right. It's not easy, but it's an adventure in a way. I don't want people to feel down and read my books and go away and go, fucking hell. I want them to go, they people are mad, aren't they? Look at this, and it's funny.
Yes.
That's why people want to escape on social media, because it's easier to watch cats and dogs pretend to fart than sometimes they do fart. It's easier to pretend and watch that stuff than look at this dark conspiracy stuff. But if you can look at the dark conspiracy stuff and bring it in a light of, this is mad, mental, in it, it just becomes really, really interesting and quite funny.
Yeah.
And it is funny. These people are mental. It's funny that we've allowed ourselves to get to this point, but it's also devastating. It doesn't have to be that way. So there is a turnaround that I'm trying to be part of in this. Bring it back down. These are not superhuman archon types. They may exist out there. Who knows what goes on the visible light spectrum? I talk about all that stuff in the book. I don't dismiss all of that stuff at all. What I'm saying is that I can't prove any of that. But what I can say is the psychological issues that have that have happened to us because these people believe these weird things. And here's the proof that they believe these weird things. It's a trickle down effect. So what my wife says, she says, like, when we were younger, we didn't have the internet. So we would only really worry about, even when I was younger and you were younger, we'd only really worry about what was happening in our country, perhaps, on the telly. Or 200 years before that, they'd only really worry about what was happening in their town and their village. We're not supposed to worry about what's happening on the other side of the planet, and we're certainly not supposed to be worried about what's happening on Mars. It's too big. You can't fix this. This isn't for you to fix. Well, these lunatics want to control all of that. Imagine being that mental.
Mm.
These aren't happy people. They're striving for a new world. Why do they want a new world? Because they want the old world to end, because they're so bloody miserable. We don't want the old world to end. We just want a better place and a more fair and less deregulated place, where everything isn't so killing each other and killing 2,000 or 20,000 kids and, seeing kids. I mean, it's horrific.
But why aren't people looking at that? This is my biggest argument. You've got people out there thinking that what's going on in Iran and what's been going on in the Middle East forever, it has some sort of benefit, that somebody somewhere's doing the right thing. Where does the right thing involve thousands of children being killed? And when they
That's when you start to believe in the ideologies, Guy, isn't it?
Mm.
You're right. Perfectly logical question.
I just don't understand how anybody can get behind someone and support them wholeheartedly and believe that they are working for the people. It's a little bit like when I owned this tattoo studio, we had a girl there that she was a piercer, and she had a postcard up on a wall. She covered her wall in postcards and pictures, and there was one postcard she'd framed, and it was brilliant. And it said on it, "Fighting for peace is the same as fucking for virginity."
Yeah. Doesn't make sense, does it?
It doesn't make sense. And if you are out there doing God's work and going around trying to convince people of that, then maybe check the Ten Commandments again, because number 10, thou shalt not kill. I would imagine that's quite an important one to follow. So how can you believe someone is doing God's work if they don't actually follow the commandments themselves? At no point do I believe anybody has the right to take a life. At no point, no matter what. I don't think that that is a decision for us. I think the
Mm.
universe, Mother Nature, a God, if there is one, whatever that might be to you, that might have the power and authority. But where do we get off thinking that we have the right to take somebody else's life?
Yeah.
That's my biggest overriding question with all of this.
The issue is boundaries, I would say there, or at least it plays a part in it. Because say you've got poor, and I had this for years and still do today, and I struggle with this people pleaser syndrome. I think Richard Grannon, who's a great guy, go and check his YouTube channel out. He talks about echo codependence, he calls it, but it's people pleaser syndrome to a level. And it's this kind of inability to have boundaries between yourself and the next person. You're supposed to have boundaries. Castles were built with a fort, a boundary around it. That's how it stays as it is. Now, there's a real difference between sitting behind your boundaries and protecting yourself than going into someone else's castle and smashing down their boundaries, taking down their wall. Now, this is the satanic inversion. People have got attacking mixed up with defending. They're not the same thing. You can't defend a football game from the other people's penalty box. You do it from your end. You're not defending if you're attacking. You can't do both at the same time. That's what people have got confused with. So they go, oh no, but if we don't go and attack them, they'll attack us. Well, who told you that?
Mm.
You punch someone in the face in the bus stop because they might punch you later on, 6 weeks later. Got you first. It's weird. So the story's got in your brain that you go, I've got to get them. This is where the ideologies come from. The Amalek must kill the Amalek and all this crap that never actually happened. All of this 40 years in the wilderness in Egypt, although there's no evidence that anyone was there at all, ever. All of that crap, that's what fuels that. Must get them before they get us, or we must get revenge on them because they got us before, although there's no evidence that anyone got anyone else. So this is this kind of, hang on a minute. One, that was, even if that was true, I don't personally believe any of that is true, but even if you do believe that stuff was true, does that give me the right to go and attack people now? It was thousands of years ago. It's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. Or when you carry that on, oh no. But it's this ideology. This, oh, we're going to make the world a better place. They believe they're doing the right thing. No one looks in the mirror unless you're a sociopath and just don't care and goes, and even they don't look in the mirror, I don't think, anyway, from what I know. Again, I'm not a psychologist. And look in the mirror and go, oh, I'm evil. They just go, I don't give a shit. I just,
Yes.
it's, they don't see it that way. But no one goes into war thinking that they're the bad guys. And it's that famous clip, are we the baddies? When they're wearing the Hitler stuff.
Yes,
Are we the
yes.
baddies? Yes,
That
you are the
Mitchell and
baddies.
Webb. Is it
Because Mitchell and
I
Webb,
can't
it's
remember.
brilliant. Because you're in the wrong end of the football game. Why are you over there?
Mm,
Oh, they've got weapons of mass destruction. Didn't they tell you that last time and they haven't got any? How
yeah.
many times have Iran had weapons, nuclear weapons? 30, 40 years? 35 years? Where's the proof? I ask for proof of this stuff. There's no proof. Oh, but what about if we're
Yeah.
wrong? Well, if we're wrong, we're wrong. We're all dead. Doesn't matter. But don't go and kill people because the slight element of you might be wrong. Go and kill 165 kids in an Iranian school. That's not right for the fact that you might be. You have no evidence, but there's a power of suggestion there that they might have something that might kill you later on, possibly whenever. This is a cult. This is what a cult does. That's why it's a global death cult, because they have weaponized death as life and life as death, because they don't want to die. They want to live forever, but they've sold you living in heaven afterwards, going to war, getting yourself killed, martyring yourself. They've sold life as death. They've sold you death as life. and the other way around. They've sold you. They know at the very top that they want to be transhumanists and live forever, and they don't want to see Connors because they're terrified of having to pay the piper. So they've sold you death as an escape while they stay here forever and live forever. They don't know what's on the other side of that. They ain't got a clue. No one does. No one knows what happens after death. I don't care what anyone tells you. No one's ever given me enough information. Maybe you're different and you can decide for yourself. But no one's given me enough, and I can only have my boundaries around what I know. I can only tell you what I know. I can't.
That's it.
They didn't told me. They've never shown me enough that what happens after death and what happened before life. I don't know. I don't know. All I do know is I've got this right now, here, right now. And you can't tell me death is life and life is death. It's not the same thing. They're the opposites of each other. That's the satanic inversion. So when I talk about a global death cult on a quest for immortality, they want the death for you, but sell it as life after death. And they want to live forever here as immortal beings alive. They've switched things round. So the religious stuff, those are the Christian faith. Martyring yourself, going up with Jesus, raptured up in the sky, which was brought up later. It's all kill yourself stuff. It's all kill yourself stuff to live forever. It's mental.
It's funny you say that because I actually put a post up this morning on Facebook and I'm expecting some backlash from it, but it'll be from people who haven't studied. It'll be people that have, through no fault of their own, been completely brainwashed. And I was explaining in there that that the Old Testament is Sumerian text regurgitated, that
Yes, it is.
the Egyptian pharaohs are following the same pattern, that actually you can look at Amun Ra, for example, and Amun Ra, who was also known as Marduk, the son of Enki from the Anunnaki.
Mm-hmm.
He's also Zeus
Yep.
in Greek mythology, and they regurgitate the same old story. And I said in there that actually, if you look at the story of Horus, born to immaculate conception, his father Osiris had been murdered.
Mm-hmm.
His mother Isis collects his dismembered body. Everything apart from the penis that was thrown in the Nile, reassembles him, and has enough to be able to reproduce from him, gets pregnant, and Horus is born from what essentially was a virgin birth. And then I explained that Horus was actually the god of the underworld
Yep.
because they believed then that actually the only people that were truly alive, that truly were free, were the ones that had passed over.
Amazing,
And
isn't it?
that's been there forever,
Yeah.
these stories. And it's just been regurgitated. Amun Ra, Marduk, Zeus, the god in the Old Testament, this jealous god. We're talking about the same people here, ultimately the same being, but it's been altered to suit a purpose, an
Yeah.
agenda, and ultimately to get people to do what they're told, live in fear, and put their hand in their pocket whenever they're asked to do so.
Yeah.
I know him. I'm on first name terms with the man up there. You do things for me. You perhaps put us in your will, help out, chuck some money in the pot. I'll have a word. And incidentally, of course, in certain religions, doesn't matter what you do. You can go out there and do something really despicable. You could kill somebody. You could harm some children, abuse people. Don't worry. Come in here and tell me what you've done. We'll forgive you, and you still get a free pass.
Yeah.
What
And
the hell's that about?
well, there's so much going on there, isn't it? I mean, Horizon, Horus Rising, Horizon, and all of that
Mm,
symbology. That's why it's important, I say, for the true crime world to understand the occult and the conspiracy world, because you need that information to put the context of what some of these, not all of these, obviously, but many of these larger scale crimes do actually have an occult background of why they did what they did. So to ignore it is lunacy, and that's not helping anyone. But what you say there is that this kind of like come in here and forgive us, and that kind of, that is what are you doing there? And this pertains to the technology today. You're going in a booth with a man in a frock telling him all your sins. Or what are you doing on the internet every day? What are you doing when you speak to ChatGPT? What are you doing when you give all your data away, which is Dayat, by the way, in the Kabbalah, which Daat, which means the hidden knowledge. It's the 11th Sephirot of the Kabbalah tree of life. It's the portal to the upside down tree of death. You see what I mean? So it's
Yes.
this hidden knowledge of you and I that no one else should know. They don't need to know that stuff. I'm not talking about awful stuff. I'm talking about just stuff that is private. That's your boundary again. So this all boundary breaking. It's all this crossing over point, and that's why they do the cross. This point, they want to break that cross. And that's the Jesus Christ going over to the other side stuff. It's this boundary breaking. It's the flipping of the other side to this side, all inside out. Once you understand this way of thinking, it will make sense now. They're bloody mad. They want to bring the upside down on the top. They want to flip the tree of life. So when you go into the confessions and you talk to the priest, that's no different than going on the internet and them just harvesting Palantir your data. So weaponize against you, because that priest can come out later and knock on the door and go, do you remember when you told me about that horrible thing that you did? Yeah, maybe you should stop doing this with that business with that person, because the whole
Mm,
village might know about that. How do you know what that priest? Many of them turned out to be paedophiles. How do you know that
yes.
that bloke next door? And they've been put in place because they've been because the system has, not all of them obviously, but a few of them have been put in that place of power. Look at the Ball brothers, the Charles mates, um, the twins, put in that place of power and prominence. They were paedophiles, because they're susceptible to that knock on the door, so they're controllable. And now that person's controllable, and this is the beast system.
Mm.
Is
This
the
is what
beast?
Epstein had going on, isn't it?
That's what
Really,
Epstein had
he
going
had
on.
dirt on them all, didn't he? You
He
imagine
was
some
their
video
confessions.
footage.
He was their
Yes.
confessions. They went
Mm,
there and confessed their sins and committed their sins on the island, and then they were trapped.
mm. And you can imagine these up and coming entrepreneurs, especially in the tech world, seeing people like Epstein hanging around with, people like Gates and so on, and Musk,
Mm,
and wanting to get in on the show, wanting to become part of the party, and then outdoing each other. Well, if he's prepared to go to that length,
yeah.
I'm going to top him, and then maybe there's more kudos for
Yep.
what I've done. And you can see how this plays out. And then once they've done it, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts on Epstein. I personally think he was a Mossad agent and he's still
Yeah.
wandering around. But and that was shared with Robert Maxwell.
Oh, I
Um,
think it's quite clear he was a Mossad agent, but I
yeah.
think he was an agent of. Well, okay, when it comes to the secret services, I believe, and I've actually spoke to allegedly a former guy who worked in the CIA about this, and I asked him this question point blank in the interview, and he didn't answer, but he raised his eyebrows and smirked a little. I said, all the agencies at the top level are just connected. They're all just one agency,
Hmm.
aren't they? And they are. So
The
Mossad,
three-letter
CIA,
agency.
they're happy for you to argue with it, because look at Victor Rothschild. In
Mm.
my opinion, and I've spoke to someone who knew him, who I did an interview with her. She was fascinating. I have to give you a number because she's fascinating. You'd like to speak to her. She's got a book out, and she was the illegitimate child of Lord Boothby. She
Oh
knew
wow.
the Rothschilds very well, and she knew Victor Rothschild, and she said he was the fifth man of the Cambridge Five. Um, but he wasn't Mossad, and he wasn't CIA. He was all of them. That's the point. So these people that get into these agencies think they're getting in there with some, they're going against KGB, they're going against the CIA, they're going against MI6. No, you're all being played off against each other until you're no longer
Yeah.
useful. Then you're on the run for the rest of your life. It's like you get into these things because it's again a cult. We're going to give you some secrets. You're going to have some adventure. You're going to have this secret. And you actually realize that actually most of the time you spend not having a life because you're
Mm.
pretending. It's You've sold yourself. That's what the selling of the soul is. Again, it's not a, again, out there contract with the demons and the devils. It's a contract with your lower base levels of going, I know this is wrong. I'm going to do it anyway. Now,
Yes.
psychopaths have the benefit of going, I don't really give a shit, to be honest.
Mm.
And because we live in an upside down, inverted beast system now, but so I would say at least 6,000 years old in its culmination of coming together, um, they get to the top of that system. So it's the system we live in the beast system already. We create in the beast system. We've created it, and that's not to blame everybody. We've all been put into it. It's a psychological shift we need, and
Mm.
it's a very logical, psychological. It's a very logical way of thinking and seeing the world and understanding these lunatics. That's why conspiracy theories and the occult is really important to understand. Not so you believe in it, not so you, and you can do what you want, but it's not so you believe these things are real, that you know that the people that have got to the top certainly do. And they weaponize these things against each other and against you. And we can't get out of this beast system. We can't flip it back the other way. We can't get the tree of life back to the top without acknowledging the fact that these people are mad. They
Mm.
can't have a world where Donald Trump can kill 170, well, 70,000, and I know that's just official, Palestinians with money, and Netanyahu, you can talk about Amalek, and they can flatten Gaza, and that's just the latest version of it. All for biblical end times bollocks. Build a temple. We can't have that. We can't have that. The world can't get. You can't have that allowed. That's that's just that's just the latest, most absurd, overt, and that's because they're normalizing it. Signal that the world is sick when someone like Donald Trump
Yes.
can overtly be such a prick, such an idiot, such a messianic moron that the world will still allow it to happen. That's how sick
Mm.
we are. And that needs to be undone very, very quickly because they believe these things can happen. They believe in the end times. A lot of them do anyway. Maybe Donald doesn't. Maybe just Donald goes, "Oh, this is the way for me to keep power." I don't know. I'm not in
Yeah.
his head. Um, but that, whether it's true, real, they believe in it or they don't believe in it, the outcome is we're all going to be pretty fucked when they bring this, they're rolling out this system that goes along this biblical narrative. They're playing out that fantasy story. Doesn't matter if it's real or not.
That's what they're pushing with
It
the
becomes
digital.
real. Yeah, it
Yeah.
becomes real. They
The,
make it, they understand the philosophy. They understand that they are magicians. They are magi. What was the three kings? Jesus, they were magi. We
mm,
are all magi because we have a physical effect on the world, which is a logical effect. If I pick this cup up, it goes to my mouth. If I sit there and go, come on, mate, get in my mouth, fuck, what happens? The magic was
mm,
me picking it up, going, I wanted to pick it up, put it in there.
mm.
It's
And of course,
logical.
if
It's
that's a cup
logical.
of tea, then there was some alchemy going on there. If you're
Exactly.
making
And
a
that was,
cup of tea, it is
and changed
alchemy.
my body and it changed me
Yes.
and it changed, therefore I had a different effect on the world. They understand these things in a logical sense. They understand alchemy and magic logically in a problem reaction solution order out of chaos way.
Mm. And that's the idea with Hollywood, isn't it? Hollywood is all about the magic, where the magic comes to life. And also I believe that that's very much fundamentally at the root of Disney, anything associated with Disney, the Magic Kingdom and so on. What they've done with Hollywood is given us, I suppose, perhaps the most invasive form of mind control you could ever have, where it's come into our home. The first thing we do with our children when they're old enough is we stick the TV on and we put a movie on, probably a Disney one, for their entertainment. But the magic is so symbolic within Hollywood. It's even named Hollywood, isn't it? Because of the holly tree being what wands are made from.
Mm.
And it's got to be the biggest example of indoctrination there is after religion. And what people don't realize is that a lot of it's subliminal, but it's also distraction. We can switch off from the world, can't we, for an hour or two by watching something without necessarily understanding the true purpose of the story, without necessarily noticing, because it is subliminal, the
Mm.
messaging that's going on within this. And then it plays out into the news, because how can you hand on heart say that anything we see on the news now, when they show us live footage of an event, how can we know for certain that that is actually
Can't now.
happening and real? It's gone. Those days have gone. We've now everything is up for debate. Everything is now questionable. Is what
Mm.
we are seeing real?
Yeah, so it's chaos. It's absolutely
Mm,
chaos, chaos of the mind. And then with the Hollywood thing for me is something that I've came to the conclusion is that what it does really is it puts a out there supernatural, supernatural shine and it's not shine, it's a framework around things that actually are quite logical. So it seems out there and untouchable, and you can't do that. It makes the world seem magic. It makes magic seem magical when actually it's very practical. Magic is very practical. Alchemy is practical magic and it's logical. That makes it seem like a superhero, superpower
Mm.
thing, and it's untouchable and unreachable by us. Therefore, we are, by contrast, weak, powerless, and that's what they want you to think, that you are
Mm.
weak and powerless, and these abilities to control your environment, your castle, your lighthouse are way beyond you, and they're powerful and they know some secret you don't. They fucking don't. They just know how to tell stories and get in your mind, and that's what I go to in the book, which is I Am Immortal, and hopefully that'll be out in next week and a half for your help.
I like the. Oh, I'm happy to help you. It's funny. We have to go back to publishing in a moment, but I just wanted to say one thing, and that is, I like your reference. You've said several times since we've been speaking that you're talking and writing about true crime, which
Yeah,
is
I am. Yeah,
exactly what it is. These people are criminals. They are breaking the law.
yeah.
You
It's
know,
true crime. It's true crime without them people understanding that it's built. It's true crime in response to an ideological narrative that comes from a biblical messianic
mm,
psychopathy, but it's true crime. The playing out of it is crime. It's criminal. You're killing thousands of people around the world. It's
yeah,
criminal. It's mass murder. It's genocide. It's true crime. That's why the true crime world needs conspiracy and it needs the occult. So my job, my little thing that I've chosen to want to do from now on, and it's taken me a long time to come to this, is to go, these two connect. You
mm,
can't have the world of, not all the time, obviously, um, but on a grand scale, on a global scale, these two global crimes connect to the occult and
mm.
to Satanism and to conspiracy. It does. They go one hand in hand globally. And maybe that's the best way to put it. Global crimes. Individual crimes might contribute to it. They may have an element of that. Like Charles Manson, clearly there's much more occultism going on there than people give it credit for. But there's reasons why Crowley was in the CIA. There's reasons why a lot of these people, like Jack Parsons, L. Ron Hubbard,
Mm.
these people are protected by the intelligence services because they know that it's all part and parcel of the same thing. So we need to reconnect those two. And the reason why it doesn't is ego. Journalists, I'm a journalist. I have a film and TV degree. Do you want to, I've done my research. You want my qualifications, you can have them, but it doesn't matter. I'm not saying that for any other reason that journalists, when I was at the mainstream, would look down their nose at conspiracy theorists and occultists and go, I'm a proper journalist. Well, no, really, you're just cutting and pasting Reuters. But um, but this kind of I'm a proper journalist and I write this and I know what I've got proper my English is great and I could do better with my grammar. But the point is they'll they forgot that that's not journalism. Journalism is to connect, tell you the truth of the story as you see it, not to posterize and say, look how good I am, look how great I am. I'm a proper journalist. I wouldn't talk about a messianic cult. I wouldn't talk about Habad Lubavitch. I wouldn't talk about the alchemy part of this. I would just dismiss all of the tarot card element of what Donald Trump's just done, looking like Jesus. It wasn't Jesus. It was the magician of the tarot. And the next card on that is the high priestess, which is Yakin and Boaz, either side of the high priestess. So when you understand this stuff, you can undo the crime because they're not committing crimes in the way you think they are. But your ego as a journalist has gone, that stuff is conspiracy theorist bollocks. I'm a journalist. I'm just going to talk about him winding his base up. He's
I thought,
not. He's not doing that. That's the part and parcel of it. He's having a laugh. He's taking the piss. But that's not really what's going on. And because your ego as a journalist has got in the way of going, I'm going to dismiss all that stuff. No one, nothing's getting anywhere. You're supposed to tell the truth with all the information that you gather, not going, I don't want that information because that makes me look like a weirdo. Well, I'll be a weirdo then. But let's try and move that dial back across a bit so it's
mm,
acceptable because only 2 years ago I was writing about Jeffrey Epstein and what might be going on underneath Zorro Ranch. Whilst talking to Epstein survivors. About 4 weeks ago, the Daily Mail basically said everything I was saying 2 years ago. So there's an opportunity here to go, hang on a minute. They are starting to realise that something else is they're not doing it because they want to do it. I don't believe it. I mean, I don't know on an individual basis, but I doubt the companies, the Daily Mail, whoever puts that, News Corp, whoever it is, puts that out, are going, oh God, we have to. They're going, oh shit, we've stopped selling papers. People are actually listening
Mm.
to the conspiracy theorists a bit more. Maybe we should include a little bit more than that. They don't care. They don't really look into that stuff. But there's an opportunity there to go.
It's
Conspiracy
funny.
theorists are journalists. Doesn't mean because I report on it, I believe in it. I report on it because I believe these people believe in it, and our world's in an upside down place because they believe in it.
That's the significant difference there, I think, that you're not necessarily saying it's true. That's what I maintain, that I'm providing you with information that I've researched. It's for you to decide whether or not there's elements of truth in it. I can give you as much information as I've got. I can give you dates, names, and so on, but I can't actually say hand on heart this is factual because I wasn't
Mm.
there. But you're sharing information, and it was Russell Brand a few years ago. I mean, I've not followed him for a while now, but I remember him saying that the only difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth was about 6 months.
Yeah,
And for all the heartache, and nobody knows this more than perhaps David Icke, to be condemned and ridiculed for your beliefs and from trying to share information with people is a pretty horrific thing because you're not looking for anyone to say thank you. You're not looking for anybody to you know patronize you or ridicule you. You're just sharing
mm.
information that you've uncovered, and you hope that it is of some use to somebody else who's currently researching something similar, or you've just connected a few dots for them that help them on their journey. And I think that the work that and I use the title, well, I wear it as a badge of honor, conspiracy theorist, because
Yeah, same here. Yeah,
I understand what it means. I'm researching the theory that there has been an act of conspiracy against us, against the people. Well, that's the correct terminology. And people will say, well, it was thrown out there by the CIA if you didn't believe what happened with JFK's assassination, if you didn't follow the mainstream narrative. Great, I don't care where the saying came
it
from.
was weaponized by
It,
that. It wasn't. It was
yes,
around before that. It was just weaponized at that point by the
but I think
JFK
it's
stuff.
perfect description of exactly what we're doing. Um,
Yeah,
and
and
I,
it's a
and I think
theory. Again, it's a question.
exactly.
And von
Yes, we're
Duncan said this
theorizing.
in his Chariot of the Gods books. Bless him. People miss this. He said people read my books and they miss the question marks. He said I write a book about questions. My book comes out. These are questions. These are wonderings. These people believe weird shit. We know that true. What do they believe? If we can understand what they believe, we can start to do something about it. These are questions. I'm not telling you, it's not a Bible. And people look at them and go, this is the truth. This is my understanding after a long period of time of studying these people, what they believe. There's a load of evidence. Have a look at this. This will back up what I'm saying they believe. Only they know truly what they believe, whether they believe it or they weaponize it. But he put question marks in his books. There's loads of question marks in
Mm,
my books. The whole point
yeah,
is these are questions. And what people about David, and I'll have to go soon because I've got to pick the boy up. But a what they forget about David Icke, is that David Icke is a journalist. He came from a journalistic background. He worked at the BBC. He was a journalist. He worked at newspapers, local newspapers, national as well. He worked at the BBC. He was a TV presenter. He's a journalist. He's not a conspiracy theorist out of the box. He was a journalist who realised that what he was reporting on, what he was seeing in the news was bollocks at a time when no one else had the guts really to do it on his level. And he
yes,
came with a certain level of fame and notoriety that came with the ridicule. And he paved the way. Others too, Alex Jones to start off with, Jordan Maxwell, many, many others that I can't bring to mind at the moment, Bill Cooper, many others, paved the way for people like myself. I'll always, always be grateful for that because it's so much easier for me to do what I do than it would have been 30 years ago. really, really is because of men like that. So the bravery is with them. They dug the trenches that we can just sit in now. And I hold David up as I know him quite well as a person. He's a human being. He's a grumpy granddad sometimes, but he is a journalist. And look at his books. I've got one round here. They're not fucking, well, I can't grab one right now, but his books are massive,
Mm.
full of detailed descriptions and evidence to back up what he's saying, written really well, full of index links. These aren't the rantings of a madman. These are nearly 30 books of full of detailed evidence. And no, I don't agree with everything he says, especially about the nature of reality. I have a different view. It's not that I think he's wrong. I just have a different view. We just have different views. When it comes to the nuts and bolts of this global conspiracy, there's no one who can come close to what David has done. No one.
Yes, I totally agree. When I first spoke to him, I said, this is your doing. That it
Mm.
was actually you that started me on this journey.
And me?
Yeah,
Yep.
and I think he's not given the credit he deserves in many cases. If it wasn't for David, would we even know the name Joe Rogan? Just as one example. I mean, I know he's a psyop, and you know, and he's sold out, but ultimately. He started all of this channels that are huge now, like the Y files and so on.
Mm.
Would they exist if he hadn't have started for many people this journey? And then there are others, like you said, the list is endless, isn't it? But there are also people like Graham Hancock, who,
Yes.
he put his head up above the parapets and took incredible flack as a direct result of that. And
Mhm.
now, he's got his Netflix shows because 5 minutes after The Guardian do a hit job on him, scientists are out there going, do you know what? I think he's right.
Yeah. And that just shows you. Just
Time.
say your bit. People are going to come at you, and you know that you're going to put your head out the parapet. People are going to come at you. You release a book, you put a video out, you say anything. So you just have to go, okay, that is the given. Fuck them. I have my boundaries up.
Mm,
And I'm not preaching this. I mean, I'm susceptible, getting annoyed with all sorts. But you have to have that fortified boundary around you.
mm,
You have to, or you just will never do anything in life. Your agency is with you. Don't allow other people to tell you what to think. And also, if they have a comment on what you think and think you're an idiot and all this stuff, doesn't mean it's true. It's just there. Go on then. If that's what you like, if you can't be polite to people, then I won't give you 5 minutes of my time. And you don't have to take crap from people. Have your boundaries up. You have a
I
right. You're not
totally
hurting
agree with
anyone.
that.
You're not hurting anyone. Put information out there. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, because there's this amazing thing you can do, and it's the same with YouTube, Facebook, and other platforms. If you don't like what you're watching or you
Yeah.
don't like what you're reading, you actually don't have to. And over the years, I've had all sorts of comments saying, "Oh, you're mad. You're talking crap. Blah blah blah. Keep taking the tablets. You should be
Oh, yeah.
medicated." And I think the only person that should be medicated is the person that's taken the time to make a comment on something that is of no interest to them
It's
whatsoever.
because what you've done is you've challenged their view of the world,
Mm,
and they're uncomfortable and they're not mature enough to go, you know what? And I do this from time to time. I'm not like above this. You catch yourself being like a child, go, fuck you, that's wrong. And then you go, as you get a bit older, you go, take a breath, because
mm,
there's something in you that holds on to that belief that makes you think, if I don't believe that and that's not true, I'm going to disappear. I'm not
mm,
going to exist anymore. And you think,
mm.
hang on a minute, it's just a fucking idea. I'm sure I'll look back on this book in 20 years' time if I don't and think, not sure what I was on about there. I haven't grown. So
You're
you're
allowed to change your
allowed to
mind.
change your mind. You're allowed to have do you think the way you did if you still think the way you did when you were 9 now, then there's something really wrong with you.
Mm,
It doesn't mean you were wrong when you were 9. That was the map of the terrain you had. It's just like people are scared to get stuff wrong or I get stuff wrong all the time. I
mm.
misspell stuff. I bloody mispronounce stuff constantly. It's That's human. What do you want? Chat GPT. And you've
Yeah,
said this
yeah,
to me.
exactly.
At least if my book has some spelling mistakes in it you said this to me and you advised to me and it stuck in my head. It was like, at least you know it's not written by AI.
Yeah, I mean, I've had the odd person say to me, "Oh, oh." I mean, first of all, I had an American um, messaged me to say that some of the words that I had spelt were incorrect, and I asked them to let me know
What,
what
an
they were.
American?
And they were, yeah, and it was just the difference in how we spell things.
Yeah,
So
but
you know,
did they not do American English? Did they not know where their English came from?
but I
They're
just said
telling,
to
they
them,
got an American telling an English person how to spell English words. Did they not? I'm not being funny, but even it's like, but everybody knows that. I mean, I'm not a genius. That
I
there's
know.
English and your Z's and your S's get changed around now and again.
Yeah, and they weren't sort of being critical or anything. They actually thought they were doing me a favor, and I said to them, well, actually, that's how we spell that word in in English, and obviously
Yeah,
in American it's different. If you've not read a book written by someone who's British before, then you're going to spot a few words like color, for example, that are different. And they're
yeah,
like, "Oh wow, thank God for that!" And they were genuinely trying to help.
fair
But
enough.
I've had the odd person say, "Oh, there's a spelling mistake on." Oh, somebody found a spelling mistake on the word foreskin in Rise of the Clones.
On their foreskin or on the word?
The word
Yeah,
itself.
don't draw on your foreskin. The worst thing you can do is just try and take a pen to your
But
bell end.
they were really pleased that they'd found something wrong. The way that this message came across, they were really pleased with it.
Yeah.
You now need to change it. And I said, well, actually, I'm not going to, but thank you for bringing it to my attention because if you've noticed the odd comma in the wrong place, the odd typo, maybe I've used the wrong word. I write as I talk, like you said, and that's
Same
how I
here.
was taught to do it.
Yeah,
And I'm not going to get everything right, and I am going to make the odd spelling mistake, and I'm not going to spend the rest of my life editing a book
no, and
because
who
I'll
gives a
always
shit? Why
find
do you care? You
something.
know what I meant? You know,
Yeah,
you
and
know
I
what I
just think
meant.
at least you know it's real. If you're spotting the odd mistake here
I
and
know
there,
I
at
have to
least you
come to
know it's
terms.
real.
I know that a lot of that is going to come my way, and I'll get better as I go. But I can't learn to like this is my first book,
Mm.
so I can't learn to like fly a jumbo jet before I learn to kind of fucking I don't know what do you do before you learn to like, get at least get up the stairs into the
Yes.
plane. So I'm
Yeah.
but take it for what
Yeah.
it is. So yeah, you can get that book anyway. That'll be out on Amazon soon, or you can head over to my Patreon as well, which is something I'm really putting a lot of work into, which would be
So is your
Patreon.
Patreon channel up now?
The Patreon channel's up now, so it's Patreon// Richard Willett. But that's free at the moment, and I'm going to put some tier stuff, but I just need to record it. Obviously, it's only been up a
Mm.
week, so I'm trying to build that. And you can go on Substack and find me on there, Richard Willett or Some May Conspire, and that there a lot of my articles go, all my articles go on there as well. So I have a subscription page there. Some of them are free. So the writing and the videos are going to be remain separate from each other, on two different platforms, which I think is wise. It gets a bit messy. So, but then you can see all my free stuff, can't you, on
Yeah.
YouTube and on an Iconic. You can see all my weekly shows. So I'm constantly just making stuff. But the book will be out with your help from Amazon in the next hopefully week's time in
Yeah.
paperback, and then I've got to do the digital
Kindle.
version, Kindle
Yeah.
version. Yeah,
Kindle
will
version.
cost
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, it does, and it takes time.
Yeah,
But I think it's wonderful that you've written a book because I do sometimes fear that it's almost a dying art picking up a
yeah,
book and reading it. But often the people that tell me that they don't read, they don't have much time to read, there are a number of reasons they'll say that. But sometimes I will see that it's somebody who spends an incredible amount of time on social media, and I think that the great thing about a book is not only is it a distraction, it's getting away from the screen instead of reading
yeah,
something on the screen, which we know is bad for us. But you actually take yourself away from the world for an hour or
yeah,
half an hour. And the other nice thing is that you can then pass it on to somebody else. You can lend it to someone,
yeah.
give it to a bookshop, secondhand bookshop, leave it on your shelf and your children and their children might read it. It has a journey of its own that it takes. And
Does I
that's
love
the
the idea of that.
difference.
Yeah, I love that idea of it being around for a long time. That's the immortality.
Yes, your book will be immortal.
Whether this the immortality is in the ideas and the effect we have on
Mm,
others, and that's what this cult hasn't understood at all.
mm,
Their immortality will be they were a shitbag. Look at Hitler. Look at Donald Trump. Look at yes, and I will put them in the same bracket because they've killed thousands of people. Look at all of these guys, that wanted to control the world. They were shits, weren't they? Look at the state of
mm,
the world. That's their immortality. They don't get it. It's inverted
mm.
again. How you treat others is your own is your immortality. People's stories about you, about the way you impacted their lives.
Mm.
And again, I'm not. I've done some stupid shit in my life. I'm sorry. There's some stories out there that I really wished I could rewrite, but there's most of it is positive, and that's your immortality in the stories that other people tell each other of you.
I think that's the one thing that we need to do is take ownership. You know, none of us are perfect. There are people out there that think they are, and they rise to incredible positions of power. You know, Trump is a good example of that, where they actually think that everything they do is for the right reasons, that they've never made a mistake, even if they have screwed up, that there was a fundamental reason behind that that was
Mm,
part of a bigger strategy. You know, and I think that own it, own it. You know, if you have got something wrong, if you've done something wrong that you shouldn't have, own it. And I think as long as you learn from it and move on and you don't continue to make that same mistake, we're all human. We get things wrong, and I think that we should just accept that. None of us are perfect. We're just trying.
mm. Yeah, and that to bring that down to that base level of the fact that we are all just muddling through, row your
Mm,
boat, isn't it? It's like I don't know what the fuck's going on. No one can tell you what's going on. We're all just trying to and even the people in the cult started off doing that as well. They're desperately looking for structure by causing chaos. So it's just a
mm.
big old fat mess that we've got ourselves into over thousands of years. But it can be undone. But it starts, in my opinion, with the understanding that this is a very human problem here.
Well, order comes from chaos, doesn't it? Because as
Yeah.
a direct result of chaos, people look for someone, always someone, or a group of people to solve the problem. Everything's gone wrong.
Hmm.
Who's going to come and put it right? I'm going to follow them and support them. And
Yeah.
that's what we've had forever. Incidentally, earlier on, you mentioned, and I hadn't heard that for a long time, you mentioned the two pillars from King Solomon's temple where the
Yeah.
stonemasons used to
Yaki
get
and Boaz.
paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I hadn't heard that for a long, long time because they're very important words in Freemasonry. You're not
Yeah.
even allowed inside the lodge meeting, you're not actually allowed to say the word fully.
Oh, really?
You can split it or half it. So I would say B, you would say O, I would say A, you would say Z, or I would say Bo, and then you would say as. And when I was going to meetings,
What the fuck?
yeah, you're not allowed to say them, you're not allowed
I
to
wonder
write
what
them
that's
down.
really interesting actually. I've
It's
never
really
heard that.
important. You
I wonder
can't
what
say
psychology behind that is.
they
So,
were passwords.
to do that, but there's also an intermingling of your psychology with the other person. There's a reliance. Again, there's a boundary cross there
Mm,
because you can't even finish a word without someone else finishing the word for you. So
yeah.
there's a boundary cross there as you're not your own person. You are part of something else, even down to the words that you're completing. That's
Well,
amazing. I'm gonna have
well,
to write an article
because
about that. That's blown my mind.
oh, I'm happy to help you with that. Because they were passwords for levels. So when you went to the first degree, second degree, third degrees, you progressed, you're given a word. And you're not allowed to write that word down. They tell you when you join, you're not allowed to write anything down at all. Don't write anything
Totally
down
fucking forget.
ever.
I would.
Um, but yeah, but the funny thing is with Boaz, that he was a really good friend of mine. This guy who got me into Freemasonry. My dad encouraged me, but the person who ultimately said, "Come and meet my dad. I know you're interested in joining the Freemasons." He had the keys to the City of London.
Really?
Very high ranking. Yeah.
Wow.
He used to own a company that provided. He started it from scratch. That provided all the catering machinery to McDonald's in England.
Really?
Yeah,
The
really
Golden
wealthy
Arches.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very well connected, very wealthy. But his son was Derek Redmond, who's
Right. I know
the
that name.
athlete who was married to
Yeah.
Sharon Davis,
This.
400-meter world champion. And he famously snapped his hamstring. And his dad came onto, in the Olympics, his dad came onto the
I remember
track,
this.
walked him across. Yeah, so Derek used to live opposite me, and we were friends for years, and we still occasionally speak now. But anyway, at the time I was in the Freemasons with Derek, Bo Selector with Keith Lemon was really popular. So
Right.
when we heard somebody being raised a level and they had to say the word or share the word Boaz,
Mm.
it was very unusual for someone to say letter it. They would normally say half it. So the first person would say Bo,
Mm.
The second person would say as. Well, whenever somebody said bow in a lodge meeting, me and Derek would look at each other and go, selector.
Yeah.
And slowly over the years, it got louder and louder, and other people
Yeah.
started saying it as well. So it turned something quite serious,
Yeah.
someone being raised a degree in Freemasonry into a bit of a joke.
But
But yeah, whenever,
that's the point. It's a really good example of what I'm saying. The lunacy and the ludicrousy of and the
mm,
absurdity is the word I'm looking for of it all can just be taken apart with something as stupid as that,
mm,
like silly as that. That's how weak this cult is. Because look at the stupid shit they're doing.
mm,
You just call it out for what it is. It's funny. The emperor has no clothes on. That's how
yeah,
funny it is. So they are so vulnerable. The only reason that they are getting away with what they are getting away with is because we're taking them seriously.
mm,
They
I
are not
totally
take what
agree.
they're doing seriously, but those as people, they are not serious people.
Mm,
They're not.
I totally agree. Is there anything you would like to say to
No.
conclude?
Thank you for all your help with helping me with the
Oh,
book, and
you're welcome.
please head over to all the links and support my book when it comes out in hopefully in a week's time on Amazon as a paperback, and the ebook will be out soon. Head over to iconic.com for my weekly shows, Classified, Focus, and Psychobabble now. So I've got 3 shows go there, and What If goes out every week as well on YouTube, which is a funny one with me and Gareth White do. And check out Making Monsters on my Patreon, which is my I've profiled some of these lunatics and a psychology of where they come from, not to give them an excuse for why they do what they do, it's so we can understand that these people really
Hmm.
shouldn't be in places of power because they are mad, and this is how they became monsters. And now they are either becoming monsters or monsters. So it's not an
Hmm.
excuse for them being what they are. It's a way of explaining that these people are mad. Don't let them have agency over you. And I think it's a really important subject matter.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Richard. And I wish you every success with your book. And we need to get more people writing, reading and writing,
Yeah.
because if they turn everything off, what are we left with?
Well, as I will bury him. Time capsules. That's the best way. Yeah.
I just have this feeling that one day we'll wake up and the internet will be down. And what do you do then? No TV, no smart TV, no ebooks, no social media. Your music's gone. You can't access your photos. They're in the
Ah, it'd be
cloud.
fucking carnage.
Get a book out,
Yeah.
grab Monopoly. Maybe not the best choice of game, but I think we're going to need to be looking at getting some vinyl and getting books again out there. And I think if you are one of these people that doesn't have time to read, then maybe look at what you're doing with your time,
Mm.
because it's a far better way to take in information to sit and read something than it is to pick up the odd article online. You don't take it in the same way, and I think we now I've got books everywhere full of post-it notes and notes that I've written and turned edges of pages, and there's no substitute for that.
But I love a book.
But thank you once again, Richard, and I wish you every success in the world with your new book, and I hope
Cheers,
it's
mate.
just the beginning.
Hopefully. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye for now.